Tonight, my guests include Honorable Agnes Atim Apea, woman member of parliament representing Amolata district. We have a policy analyst, Godbatu Mushabe, and Dr. Godwin Ayesiga, manager research and training, Uganda National Meteorological Authority. Goodbye, Honorable Agnes and Dr. Godwin, thank you so much for having honored our invitation. Thank you. A warm welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
The good thing we have somebody who is, should I say, the proverbial sword of Damocles is hanging on the head to cut an institution. But also we have a people's representative who has a mandate to legislate for Uganda, and we have a policy analyst and a teacher of law at the School of Law. Let me begin with you, because you're a policy analyst. When these agencies were created, the argument was that there should be efficiency, there should be better service delivery. They had seen a problem and they wanted to fix it.
Yeah.
Now, 20 years down the road, has that problem stopped? Have they been able to fix what they saw as a problem? Why even remove them when we still need service delivery? Like we needed them 20 years back.
Yeah, so thank you, Patrick. Let's put it, put it into perspective. Huh? So what we are dealing with is actually starts with the 1995 Constitution. So you realize that in the 1995 Constitution, there were a number of institutions that were created. These are constitutional commissions dealing with human rights, dealing with elections, dealing with a number of other things. So you have that set of institutions, first of all. That's 1995. But if you go back much further, you will find that the first set of institutions to be created that we are dealing with were actually created at the beginning of the 1990s. The first of these institutions included the National Council for Science and Technology and the Uganda Investment Authority. So they were all created for a purpose because, in fact, at that time, if you read President Museveni's speeches from 1986, almost about 1996, you'll find his emphasis on science and technology. So the National Council for Science and Technology was established to provide leadership on how this country can move and adopt.
Speech is always the same.
No, no. I tell you.
Most cases,
I can tell you how the speeches have shifted over time. So you have that set of institutions. In 1987, we adopted the second structure adjustment program. For the record, the first structure adjustment program is the one of 1981 under Obote I government. So in 1987, we adopted the second structure adjustment program. It was called the Program for Development and Reconstruction and Rehabilitation. And under that program, a series of things were done. One, we invested in downsizing the public service. So in other words, that's the recruitment. We invested in downsizing the army. And then we also started now the creation of these institutions. Yeah. So by 1995, we already had institutions like the National Environment Management Authority. In 1996, we created the Uganda Wildlife Authority, and then they went on and on and on. What was the rationale? The rationale was that the public service bureaucracy was too big, so it needed to be cut down and made efficient. So these agencies were mainly created to navigate around the civil service, the traditional public service bureaucracy.
Yes.
And to create efficiency, but also to protect the money meant for specific programs from the accounting officers. Because at that time, if you had a budget and you have money that is going for, let's say, for environment, the permanent secretary would divert that money to do other things. Now, these agencies started having votes. So almost now, over almost close to 30 years later, we are almost doing a reversal. So the fundamental question is whether we have actually now we've stabilized the government to the extent that you can now operate as a traditional civil service bureaucracy. That is now the question we are dealing with. I think at the strategic level, and this is the point I keep on emphasizing, that my view is that the debate on rationalizing statutory agencies is actually a diversionary debate. Because you have a dysfunctional, bloated government system, starting from the executive, the presidency, going to the legislature, going to the local government. Everybody knows in this country that the president has created a parallel government in his office. Almost every ministry and other agencies have something called the unit in the office of the president. So there is no logic. You're saying that you have dismantled these agencies and you have similar institutions in the office of the president. But you also, what is also interesting is that you are not touching some of the informal outfits, like this thing called Operation Wealth Creation. That is now like a big thing, but that is informal. And for me, that is the rationalization that is going on, besides being an irrelevant issue because of the structural difficulties that we are facing as a country. It is consistent with the informalization of government, which has been the trajectory that the current regime has taken.
Honorable Agnes, you know, the inefficiency in public service and the bureaucracy that Godba is talking about, you know, sometimes in some cases really you find some institutions even don't have a pulse. Do you really think now, the time is now, to these agencies to go back to inefficient, bureaucratic government system, bloated and incompetent?
Thank you very much for inviting me here. And thank you, the policy analyst, Goba, my longtime friend in the civil society world, for that analysis. We need to appreciate that as government, we see phases or governments evolve. And I'm glad that he has given that analysis from where we are coming from the structural adjustment programs, but also how all these institutions were created and for what purpose. And this is 20 years down the road. We also need to appreciate that we have a decentralized system of governance, that our local government over time has evolved, and we have built capacities to do the work that they're supposed to do. We also need to appreciate that in that local government act, roles are clearly defined, that central government, including those agencies, were supposed to regulate, were supposed to supervise, were supposed to monitor and develop standards and enhance a quality assurance, not to implement. The implementation of government programs are supposed to be and should be the local governments themselves. That is one element that we need to see about this rationalization process. Now, the other second issue is that what are really the functions of these agencies? Of course, as he rightly said, at that time, we needed specific agency for specific things because of the need at that time. And yes, these were constitutionally established, and I've read the law that established most of these agencies, and you realize that in government wisdom, I don't think that they created this agency for eternity, or that it would not stop or it would not end. For example, if we look at UNRWA, for example, it's an authority which is supposed to oversee the design and all these things of the roads and all that, which is a very good role, and have done really amazing job. But I think government sat back and said, wait a minute, where they have reached, how much capacity have we built as government? And also one thing about this rationalization does not mean that if we are saying an agency goes back to the ministry, they will stop they will cease to do work. All their functions are going to go back to that ministry. Now the question of efficiency and addressing those, providing service delivery to the people and to the country, in my opinion, and what is really in that law, is that we are just going to transfer those roles back to the ministry.
Honorable Peya, you are convinced that the public service has reached a level now to take in these agencies and run even much better than how the situation is. That's your conviction?
That is my conviction. But also, remember that 20 years ago, we did not have technology. As a country, we are also promoting what we call the e-government. And that, in my opinion, will improve that efficiency that we are talking about. Now, for me, the discussion shouldn't really be about, is it going to make it better? Is it going to make... First of all, we need to appreciate that what have we achieved in terms of capacity building and in terms of generating the skills that we needed and also the efficiency that we needed. Now, if it is, for example, which I think the agencies that I know better is, for example, agriculture. We had nuts, we had coffee, we had, I think, DDF for cotton and all this kind of stuff. Really, must they be agencies? Can they go back to the ministry with all their expertise that they have developed and then do the same work that they're doing? Because if we run away and start working in these silos, who is going to develop that government system that we have actually developed? Let me come and I think for me, the president has put it very clear that I sit in a budget committee, and in every year, including this financial year, our expenditures are actually more than the money we generate. Now, if government brings a proposal and strategically say that, you know, we can still run this same, we can still do the same work, but at a lesser cost.
Okay, that's a different idea.
And let's
whether this is an element where government is going to teach us to be frugal and save funds, yes. That one I do not really buy the idea. I don't think that's going to happen, because there's a lot of wastage somewhere. Even just yesterday, they created another avenue for spending money. But let me come to you, Dr. Yesiga, because you are from UNIMA, Uganda National Meteorological Authority. You're the weatherman. And like I said at the beginning, the proverbial sword of Damocles is hanging over your head. One of the agencies are supposed to go.
You're one of them, right?
But the honorable member of parliament here is telling, you know what, go back home. Come, go to your home.
Bring the skills back home and build the country.
And they're telling you, come home and let us work from within.
Yes. Are using the ministries out of Uganda.
Why are you not happy?
They are right here.
Dr. Yesiga, why are you not happy to come back home?
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you
That's a good one.
Thank you very much, Patrick, and thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this show. And I want to say good evening to my fellow panelists and good evening to our viewers. Patrick, that's a very good question, and it comes from the Honorable, which is a good thing. Now, it's a question, why is it that we don't want to go back home? It's not that we really don't want to go back home, but we want to review the reasons why Uganda National Meteorological Authority was created. And if you listen carefully to what our policy analyst, my senior researcher, Godba, mentioned, is that the idea was to create efficiency. And you need efficiency in some of the government agencies. Classic example is Uganda National Meteorological Authority. We provide weather and climate information to save lives, property, and property. So So if you look at that...
And information to aviation industry.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying that the service we provide is to save life and property. This doesn't need to wait. It requires an entity that's very efficient, an entity that has power to make decisions, an entity that has control over its budget, I'm very sure Honorable would want an efficient weather and climate service, because I will give you one classic example, Honorable, that if you're flying, I know you have flown, and all of a sudden they tell you can't land because probably we don't have weather and climate information. I know, Honorable, you would be very you would not be very comfortable. You would just be praying to God. And so, yeah, and that's, and that, Patrick, this is what I'm trying to say. As much as Honorable, yeah,
one at a time. One at a time. Let him make his case.
Yes, Patrick. Yeah. So I like Honorable's question whether we cannot do this at the ministry. You see, if you had what my senior researcher mentioned, that the reason was to create an efficient system. And if you remember that we draw this from the UK system, that by 2011, by the way, around 50% of the UK's public servants were in government agencies. The idea was to create efficiency. And you need efficiency in some agencies. By the way, you need efficiency in the entire government framework. And so my colleague here did mention about, whether you think that we are now at the stage of having ministries that are very efficient. And that was in line with Patrick's question. So our argument is super simple, that as a semi-autonomous agency, we deliver more efficiently than when we are in the ministry.
Okay.
Just a small one.
Yes, a small one.
Just a small one. The whole discussion really kind of tend to portray that there is a vote of no confidence in our ministries. There's efficiency out there, and that efficiency cannot be developed.
That vote of confidence was made 20 years, more than 20 years ago.
In the ministries. But the government which did that is coming back to you and say, wait a minute, we've developed the capacity, we've developed the systems, and we think you can now come back and we develop it.
But I think, Agnes,
for me, that's Agnes, really where I'm feeling.
You guys are missing a point. You are missing a big point. And you're going to create problems. And then we'll go back to now to creating the agencies. Because these agencies are specialized agencies. They're specialized. If I was reforming government, if I wanted to reform the bureaucracy, the group that needs to deal with are the ministries. I need no more than 20 ministers or 20 ministries to oversee specialized technical units. Meteorological department, maybe people don't understand, don't look at things the way I see them. Uganda is a nature-based economy. Yeah? Our economy is dependent on the mercy of God. Today, the rains fail, we are finished. The droughts prolong, they are finished. Even when the rains come in large volumes, we have a problem. So you need a meteorological department is actually part of your national security infrastructure. It's not just about weather. It's about your national security infrastructure. So those are things you don't play around with. Yeah? When you say National Roads Authority, if this was a functioning government, because the entire government has malfunctioned, but if this was a functioning government, a National Roads Authority would be there trying to develop the road network of this country. And what the guys in Tanzania are doing, you have roads being constructed, trunk roads. Then you say, we are seeing movement. So what I would be rationalizing is, if you guys in Parliament, you'd be saying, do you need, don't we have like 3 minutes as now for Kampala? I think there are 3. I mean, just think about it. What do 3 ministers do in Kampala? You would be asking the president, Mr. President, what do you need 3 ministers for? If you were rationalizing, you would be sending those ministers home to go and do more productive things.
Instead of adding their assistant RDCs.
Instead of adding assistant RDCs. So I think, my view is that Parliament is missing an important point. I think that the executive does not understand how you need to create efficiency in government. I think these are technical agencies. You would just make them smarter, and you have a lean ministry structure to supervise these agencies. But now you bring, so you get meteorology, you get environment, you put them under water and environment, and then people are there. Remember, part of the problem we are having, Agnes, that these ministries do things they are not supposed to do. I have raised the issue previously where the Prime Minister's office, which is supposed to be a coordinating entity of government, they are there in northern Uganda distributing rice, distributing this, building houses for chiefs and what? And you ask yourself, why would the Prime Minister, the office of the Prime Minister, yes, be doing basic things when you are supposed to be doing strategic level coordination of government?
Good.
Yeah.
Honorable gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to give the opportunity, Agnes, to begin with you. I also want you to make a case on the issue of government to be able to save funds by rationalizing the agencies. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guests tonight are Godbert Tumushabe, Honorable Agnes Atim Apea, and Dr. Godwin Ayesiga. And we're discussing the rationalization of government agencies. Before we took a break, Honorable Atim, you wanted to intervene. And you also made a case that maybe this could save public resources. In what sense?
Yeah, thank you very much. I really want us to look at this rationalization in three prongs. One is that asking agencies to go back to the efficiency issue that we are talking about is just about governance, it's about supervision. We have a Ministry of Works or a Ministry of Water that supervises all these agencies. The difference is that these agencies have their own boards. They decide on their own salaries, they decide on their own staff, and they decide on all this, right?
Board members, I thought they're appointed by the minister.
Appointed by the minister.
That is what government is now saying.
Under the minister.
That is what government is now saying, that where we have reached now, we have other priorities to look at. In terms of capacity that we needed 20 years ago, as government, we feel that we've developed that capacity enough in the ministries. Even in those agencies. By the way, what is happening is transferring the functions that the agencies are having now to the mother ministry for ease of coordination, supervision, and avoid duplication. That is the essence of the RAPEX law, really. It is not so much about this stuff will go away and what.
Okay.
No, these are all still
Patrick,
government
okay,
stuff.
Honorable. Dr. Ayesiga.
Patrick, I think Honorable is missing a point here. When it comes to duplication of services. I will give a classic example, that there is no government ministry that provides weather and climate services. So there's no duplication. So if you're arguing that if you're arguing that, look, we want to get rid of the duplication, we don't have any government ministry that provides weather and climate services. So yes, and that's why we're arguing. That's why we're arguing, Honorable. That's why we're arguing that for meteorology, it's a peculiar case. It's a unique service. It's a highly specialized service that needs to be
and very strategic.
Very, very strategic. You know, this country is grappling with climate change.
Yeah.
And UNMA is the focal institution for the IPCC.
Patrick,
it's actually the wrong time. Patrick, you need to protect me. It's actually the wrong time for our country to take a move of taking back UNMA to the ministry. At this point, Patrick,
what I'm hearing from this discussion,
yes,
there could be maybe those agencies that maybe can go back home.
Yes, but Honorable can agree with me.
Patrick,
yes, Honorable,
is it that you cannot do that specialized work under the supervised by the ministry and under the ministry? What is it?
So
is it a building?
Honorable,
is it a human resource?
Your argument. No, your argument.
Because your function, your staff.
So, Honorable, you have asked the question. So
Honorable's argument was that they're trying to get rid of the duplication. And so my question was very simple, that in all government ministries, let her point to us a ministry that provides a unique service similar to that provided by UNMA.
That may be for the specific issues like yours, but even if
That's
you're providing
a reason enough.
No, but even if you're providing that highly specialized skill, what's wrong with providing that under your ministry, supervised by your minister? What's wrong with that? What is it that makes this skill be done on its own, supervised on its own, and not the ministry?
Patrick,
why?
Okay, good.
For me, that's what is disturbing.
I think we are really missing the
My
point.
understanding.
Yes, we are missing the point.
We are missing the point.
But the minister supervises. Patrick, the minister supervises UNMA.
No, so Godwin, this is the point.
Yes.
Even if I can create a private company, it can provide meteorological services. The question is the company organized in such a way that it is efficient and it has the resources to do it? So it can be done by an agency, by the authority. It can be done by a ministry. I think that what we need to understand right now is that the discussion about the statutory agencies, for me, is the footnote. It's not the big issue, because nobody guarantees, not even these members of parliament, nor the executive can guarantee that because these agencies have gone back to their mother ministries, that you've created value, that you've created efficiency. Nobody will guarantee that. So in other words, unless someone was look at all these ministries, cut them down, make them lean, make them efficient, and they supervise these departments. In every ministry now, almost every department has a minister. Every department. If you go to Ministry of Education, you have like 4 ministers. And so there's university, there's tertiary, probably primary, then sports, and then the main minister. If you go to Ministry of Works and Transport, you'll find the same situation. So if you go to Ministry of Finance, every department has a minister. So actually the bloatedness and the lack of efficiency starts from there. So instead of discussing about these statutory agencies, the MPs would be asking, Mr. President, what is your plan for dealing with the bloatedness that cuts across the board? What sense does it make to say we have abolished the statutory agencies and then you have created units in State House? What sense does it make? How have you rationalized it? So lands is in State House.
Give you information that members of parliament have discussed all these issues you're bringing. In fact, in every sector or every committee's recommendation, we are urging the executive not to stop only at rationalizing the agencies. If our aim as a country is to reduce the over-expenditure in the administration of government, then let's start with the agencies, let's go to the ministry, even parliament. We have made recommendations that we are better off having a fewer...
has made recommendation to itself.
Yes, you've not. Have you been following discussions on the floor of parliament?
If you recommend yourself, who is supposed to make the decisions?
Personally, I think that our parliament is bloated. Personally, and all these views have been brought on the floor of parliament.
So who will make that decision to cut down the size of parliament?
Of course, we make recommendations.
To who?
Let me tell you, I think we need to understand also
but you are the people
how some of these... No, but let me tell you, executive brings proposals to government, okay? Legislation does not decide that this is all that. Of course, there are provisions of private members' bill, but there are also government bills that come, particularly for issues that affects those operations and the executive generally. So all the discussion, it is not that Parliament is not looking at all these things. There are a lot of discussions that has been generated as a result of repealing some of these laws. So it is not true that Parliament is not being sensitive or Parliament is not seeing this. We've analyzed, we do research, and we've analyzed all these issues that you're bringing. The issue on the table at the moment is that our people of this country need services. And government says, how do we bring services to the people? We have less revenue as a country. How do we generate revenue? So, yes, we are investing in areas that can generate revenue, but we also think as government, there are areas where we can cut expenditures and generate revenue.
If I can give Agnes just one example.
Yes.
You see, I think that there is lack of information somewhere. I always give the example of National Forest Authority. National Forest Authority may have its own issues. This authority was established in 2000, probably 2001 or 3. Yeah? And we're moving from the forestry department that was known to be corrupt and inefficient and so corrosive. The National Forest Authority was created. If there's one progressive policies of this government that has been effective, it was a decision to allocate forestry reserve land to private tree farmers. Yeah, that was a very progressive decision because government wanted to increase artificial forest to be able to reduce the pressure on the natural forest estate. Today, there is an estimated 100,000 hectares of mature forest plantations in this country ready for harvesting. Courtesy of NFA. Now, of course, if we had a government that plans and thinks strategically, 100,000 hectares of forest plantation gives you an entire channel to create forest or wood-based industries. But of course, now we are caught off guard. Nobody is prepared to be able to harness this. So the point I'm making, Agnes, is that if government had the will and the discipline, you can actually keep these agencies and make sure that they are efficient, make sure that they are doing their work, and they create value for the country. So the idea that so we have to put them under the ministries, you have not given us the confidence that the roads that UNRA has failed to do will be done because UNRA has gone to the ministry. Or that the weather data that the meteorological authority has not been doing will be done because it has gone back to the ministry. Nobody has been able to tell us that is what will happen.
Okay, so now, Dr. Yosiga,
yes,
what is your worry? If they are saying, come back to the ministry, you'll have your resources, you'll have your budget, I mean, you'll have your job. So what's the worry?
And that is actually the point.
Even Agnes is asking, what's the worry?
Patrick, there is no worry. Nobody is worried about the job. We are concerned about this country. This government invested in many of us. You know, they took us to, paid our tuition in universities to benefit its operations. We are not concerned about the jobs. We are only concerned about the future of this country. You love your country more.
Let me say what
I can tell you. The move.
They are not answering that question.
I wanted to answer the question.
They are not answering the question. What is a fear?
Yeah. So let me answer the question, Godwin. You're not answering it. You're not answering it because you're a public servant. So let me answer this question. Because,
okay, I'll give.
So in the public service, there is a bureaucracy. Yeah?
And in agencies, there's none.
So look, the point is that at the top there is a permanent secretary. At the bottom level, if this agency goes back to the ministry,
there's a commissioner.
There is a department probably headed by maybe a commissioner of sorts. At that point, every decision is taken by the PS. It's not taken by the commission. Everything will be signed off by the PS. And traditionally, the public service system, normally, that channel of communication, there is always the slowness of the decision-making process just steps in. So what I know, because I worked in the public service for 2 years, immediately after I finished my first degree, And I looked at what was there. I said, this one I can't manage. the way decision-making processes go. I mean, there must be a miracle. Government may be trying to perform a miracle that all of a sudden the bureaucracy that was a constraint to efficiency when these agencies were created, that all of a sudden that has disappeared. I would wait to be proved wrong that is still the case.
But I also want to allay your fears that even within these agencies, there's an accounting officer, there are heads of departments, and there are officers, so still there are decision-making processes in that agency. And for me, the research that we were given based on this bill or this law and the repeal is basically that these agencies were formerly part of the ministry. Yeah, they were agencies, yeah? And so at that time, 20 years ago, there was specific need for them to go and do some specific thing independently. And now government is saying it's the right time you come back and continue doing that.
Patrick, what makes it the right time?
Patrick, let me just...
the coming back is for this
Patrick, let me...
It's the same government.
Let me just make one simple... One
okay.
simple submission in response to Honorable's submission.
You haven't answered my question.
Which question?
Why are you fearing to go back?
We are not fearing to go back. No, but we are looking at the future of this country. This particular decision of mainstreaming UNMA is retrogressive and it is regrettable.
What are the key things that the country will miss when you go back to the ministry?
So I want to start from where Godbar stopped. The key and major thing is efficiency and how quickly we make these decisions. Because we are so specialized, I'll give you an example. You don't have to wait for somebody to give you a signature to issue a warning of an impending disaster. That is our concern. And that's why we are saying that we need to be listened to. We need to review the decision to mainstream UNMA.
But okay,
because, wait a minute.
What makes you think?
Just give me 1 minute. Just 1 second, Patrick. I want to broaden this into the East African framework. In 2011, Rwanda Meteorological Service was transformed into Rwanda Meteorological Authority. It is semi-autonomous. In 2012, government of Uganda transformed the Department of Meteorology into Uganda National Meteorological Authority. Now, in 2019, Tanzania transformed its department into TMA, Tanzania Meteorological Agency. Now, as I speak, Kenya has its bill, the Meteorology Bill 2023, and they are forming the Kenya Meteorological Services Authority. So if you look at East Africa itself, you can see the trend. And what are we doing as Ugandans? Where are we heading to? For us, we looking at going backwards. And that's why we are arguing that the move to mainstream UNMA back to the ministry is retrogressive.
How would you respond to that, Agnes, considering that...
Patrick, I want us...
And Agnes needs to remember that this East Africa framework transforming the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services into semi-autonomous agencies are anchored in the East African Treaty. These are decisions made by heads of states of East African community.
Is that also a requirement of World Meteorological Authority to work in that kind of manner?
You just remove the question mark. You've just answered it. That UNMA has international obligations. The World Meteorological Organization and the ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization, require that meteorological services for international air navigation be provided by an institution that is ISO certified, and UNMA is ISO certified, and the World Meteorological Organization encourages all national meteorological and hydrometeorological services to be semi-autonomous. And so it is based on that international trend and the regional trend in East Africa that we are saying that this particular decision needs to be reviewed.
Okay. So
Thank you, Patrick. I want to appreciate my brother on making a case for his agency. And I think this is too, for me, no. For me, this is not the right time and the right place to make that decision.
Yeah.
The research government undertook research in 2018 by Ministry of Public Service, and all these agencies have been consulted widely. And very thorough work has been done to the point that is now coming to Parliament. So I appreciate his views and all these international obligations and the regional and all that. It's all said and done. But I think at this point it may not be the right time and the right place to do it. For me,
too late or something like that.
I don't want to use, that's your own word. But what I want to say is word of efficiency, that seems to be the catchword. What is efficiency? It is doing the right thing at the right time, in a right way, with the right budget, a right supervision, governance, and management. What is it that this efficiency cannot be done at the ministry?
The right management structure.
And I think as citizens of this country, we need to appreciate what our country is proposing. Because
our country, no, our government.
I mean, our government, yes. I mean, this is the same thing. It's you're a government, you're a citizen and all that. But for me, what I think is, if this authority is this efficient and all that, what is it that in ministry? So who do we want to go and create that efficiency in the ministry? Government is saying you have done well, you are best practice, and government knows these things that in research, you roll out the best practice. You've done very well, and you've shown the country that you're really that efficient. If government is saying come and share that best practice, and let us reform the government.
When you have a winning formula, why change it?
What do you mean a winning formula?
If the agencies and authorities were the winning formula to create efficiency, then why change your winning formula?
But by the way, one question that we need to ask these agencies who are talking they're efficient, or they are doing this, or they are perfect, they are not corrupt and all that. We also need to ask a question. Are they really that angel that they think they should be left to fly?
No, we're not.
I think the discussion should be how to make us angels.
And so the government is saying, for you to be better angels, come and be supervised.
Making us angels, Honorable, is not mainstreaming, rather giving us more resources, empowering us. Honorable, you know that, for example, Kabalega International Airport is coming on board. So it's the right time to give us more resources as UNMA, to provide these services. Make us angels.
One other thing that these agencies actually don't know is that taking you to the ministry does not mean you will not be funded, or maybe your money will be cut, or your resources or your expertise will be cut. What if you go to the ministry and you are even funded more to do the work under the supervision of a ministry?
I'm afraid that...
For me, this is a very simple thing.
No, Patrick, I'm afraid that when Honorable, takes the whole, agencies, I think we lose the point.
No, the specificity. I think in this discussion we are not looking at specificity. I think, Godwin, we are looking at the RAPEX. This discussion
can't be about the meteorological authority.
Yes, it's a general
it's about the principle.
Yeah, it's not about an agency.
I think what the government has not really explained is the basic rationale for the mainstreaming of these agencies or taking them back to government. Is it an issue of cost? Is that the main problem?
That's one of them.
What are the other problems? Because you ask yourself, what is the policy problem we are trying to solve by taking these agencies to the ministries? Maybe you could help us. What's the problem we are trying to solve?
For me, and I thank you for that. I think that is the basis at which we should be actually discussing this issue, not the specific issues and the expertise and all that. one of the issues that I raised at the beginning is that government has recognized that the administration costs is very high as opposed to the revenue that we generate as a country.
Okay.
And one of the areas is that why don't we reduce on the different
on the autonomous agencies.
Agencies
Yeah.
who can actually still do the work at a lesser cost and maybe more efficient under a supervision of a ministry. And for example, if you go to electricity, you find that there is an agency for generation, there is one for distribution. There's one. There are about 4.
And then for transmission.
For transmission, and we are asking, must they really
and
all
then
be
for regulation?
For regulation.
And then there's for rural.
Then there is also ministry.
Yeah.
Those are 6 different things working on one electricity. Now we are saying, instead of having all these 5, can we bring them under this ministry and be managed at that level at maybe a lesser cost so that we can coordinate and all that. In terms of costs,
okay. Yeah.
and the bloating. The other second issue that much as in his case may be unique, that it's not duplicated, but also there's an issue of duplication and working in silos. I told you I sit in the budget committee. You'll be amazed that there is one ministry, say with 4 agencies. Each agency wants to buy, for example, an IT software. Which software, a ministry could buy one software that can actually serve all these 4. So we are saying, why would we be doing that? And yet, this can be solved by all these agencies coming and working together. Okay? Right. So the issue of cost, the issue of coordination, the issue of duplication, but also the efficiency that we are talking about. Because if they are coordinated and if they are working together, you know, it would be better for that efficiency that we are talking about, and also improve the services that we want.
Allow me ask Agnes. I consider Ministry of Agriculture to be one of the most inefficient ministries in this country, given the state of our agriculture now. How would bringing the other agencies that have been out into the ministry, how would that improve its efficiency? Okay. And operations.
Okay, hold on. Honorable Tim, you're going to answer that later. Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Honorable Tim will answer that question, but also I'll give you the opportunity to have your say. We'll be right back. You're watching On the Spot, and before we took a break, Godba had, I think, asked a question to you, Honorable Tim, if you still remember.
I don't remember.
I asked the question. Yes. One, I consider Ministry of Agriculture to be one inefficient ministry because it has failed to organize agriculture in this country. So my question is, if now you bring all the other agencies, NADS and others, to the ministry, how does that solve the efficiency problem? Well, you can go to energy, Minister of Energy. Uganda's access to electricity right now is probably below 30% rural penetration. These agencies have been there. How can you convince a rational thinking Ugandan that by bringing these agencies now back to the ministry, that all of a sudden electricity access will increase?
Actually, I think the way you've presented it, you have actually realized that much as the agency are doing a very good job, they are still not meeting the expectation of Ugandans. You've just answered but also the efficiency things are two-way. One is that if the agencies were really that very efficient in doing the work, in the wisdom of government, we think that let them then come back and build the capacity of this ministry to do it even better.
What does that mean now, building capacity?
Yes, I mean, because if we say that the agencies are really that efficient and they can really do wonders, and come and revamp the ministry and make it work better.
If the agencies were working well, and the ministries are not working.
Come and work now better in the ministry.
Can't we disband the ministries?
Actually, what you people are suggesting, what your presentation here means, like I rightly said at the beginning, is that you're saying our ministries are really not doing anything.
Yeah, but I mean, we can close them and do with the agencies.
It's a vote of no confidence of sort and all that, but we are saying no. Everything that you're doing is under this ministry. We need to come, revamp it and make it work better at a lesser cost, more coordinated and more supervised.
Dr. Yesiga, does it make sense to have a director in the ministry supervise an agency and the head of that agency is probably even earning 10 times more than their supervisor?
But is that a question? He answered it.
But isn't that the scenario in some cases?
It's a scenario, and we need to admit it. And like when we were during the break, I was telling you, one of the things that this agency has caused this country has kind of brought a lot of demoralization in the work of the public servant, because they do the same work. Some of the, by the way, some of the staff in the ministries are even more qualified than the staff in the agencies. But you find that the agencies are paying 10 times more than this.
So this is the issue, Agnes. Huh? When you are dealing with that problem, it's not an agency ministry problem. You would be dealing with the issue of salary rationalization. Because as government, you can set a standard on how people are paid, whether you're in the ministry, whether you're in an agency. So you cannot have the problem of salary disparity be a basis for shutting down an agency, assuming the agency, if you think that the agency was useful, you cannot just say because the salary of this person and the other one are different, so we cross this one. No, what you do, you now deal with salary rationalization, make sure everybody at whatever scale,
the process as well.
But you see, you know, the problem with this government is that sometimes it does things upside down.
No,
you do things upside down. So.
So anyway, the issue is that if we need efficiency, then we should not tie it to an agency. Let it be efficiency across government. And if it is an issue of cost, let us cut the clothes based on the size. But we cannot pretend that we are going to have a Gomez when we can actually only afford a skirt. Let's come back to a skirt, develop it better, and then go back to a Gomez.
To that extent,
but we've over, subscribed.
To that extent, we would agree with you.
Yeah.
If government had brought you a plan and said, we want to rationalize government, one, we are dealing with the presidency.
That will come.
No, I'm not. I'm not worried because I know you want to. I know you have no capacity to do it. The Parliament of Uganda has no capacity to deal with the president.
But we have the mandate, the constitutional mandate.
You have the mandate, but you don't have the capacity and the power to do it. Because you as Parliament, you surrendered your power to the president.
That's not true.
No, because, I mean, you are there also like cheerleaders almost.
That's not true. And the issue of capacity, we do have all the capacity.
Because what have you changed?
That the country needs.
So if government came with a proposal to abolish these agencies, transform them into departments, as Parliament you would be asking, we have a problem with the presidency, where the president have created a parallel government there.
Okay, let me try to maybe get views from Ugandans who are trying to reach us on phone, and the numbers on the screen. I understand I have a call online. Hello.
Yes, hello, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name?
Patrick.
Okay, go right ahead. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Frederick Wanambuko, calling from Mutungo Hill.
Okay.
I've been following the discussion about the rationalization of agencies, and noticed one thing from the Honorable Member of Parliament. One of the key issues I've identified, one is these MPs handling the rationalization lack the technical competency about the nature of work these agencies are doing. Example, she has been talking about the electricity sector. Mr. Kamara Patrick have been deeply involved in the electricity sector. The mandate of these agencies is so huge. For example, UETCL, their work is to build the transmission line. From the time the agencies were put into place, like UETCL, we had, I think, less than 100 kilometers of transmission line. We're talking about 2,500. if I passed in Amurata is in darkness. Now, when you talk about removing some of these agencies that are involved in provision of social services, you are basically going to worsen the whole thing. And number two, I'm much interested in seeing the executive, especially the political class, tabling a bill about reduction of ministers. For example, Minister of Gender. You have a ministry having 4 ministers: a minister for youth, a minister for elderly, a minister in charge of employment, and the entire cabinet minister. I would also want to see these same MPs tabling a bill about reduction of the MPs in Parliament. We are losing over $1 trillion shilling on them every financial year. So thank you very much, Mr. Kamara Patrick.
All right, and thank you for your submission there. The issue of reducing the cost of administration is key. You need to do. There's a hemorrhage of resources because of the bloatedness of and inefficiency in the government, especially in the ministry. Just the other day, they created another avenue for expenditure by sending on top of below the deputy RDCs who now have the assistant RDCs, about 300 of them, I'm told. So again, if you're saying you want to cut costs, I don't think that's an element of cutting costs. So how do you respond to the caller from?
Yeah, thank you very much. The caller, the issue of MPs lack capacity, that's not true. We have very knowledgeable and very experienced MPs. We have members of parliament who have worked in some of these agencies. We have PhDs. I have a PhD in economics and finance. So you can't say that I don't know what I'm doing. You can't say that I cannot read and understand the mandate of an agency. So that is not true, that Parliament does not have capacity. Besides, as an institution, we have a whole research and development department in Parliament.
Maybe you could
the
answer
other
together.
Second issue is...
Honorable Tim, because there's another person relatedly with a similar question. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, what's your name and what's your point?
I'm Olego Andrew.
Yes, Olego.
Calling from Sorote.
Yes, go right ahead, Andrew.
The issue is, I think when we are trying to talk of this rationalization,
Andrew, let me give you a trick. Please don't turn off your TV. I mean, turn down the audio of your TV so that doesn't send an echo. No, turn down. Okay, please, in case you want to call, please. You cannot have a conversation at the same time your TV volume is up there. It will confuse you with an echo. I always say that. It appears somehow it never sinks in. Okay, we could go.
Yes, so
okay, I think he's calling again. Andrew, hello?
Yes, hello.
Yes, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Victor Angwajivi from Lugara here in Kampala.
Okay, go right ahead, sir.
I'm a little puzzled by the statement by Honorable about the aspect of decision-making process. If you have one minister or one PS and you have so many agencies in under this one PS, and you need to take a decision, you need funds, you need sanctioning, you need all this, and you have only one PS, you're going to have a very long decision-making process. So how are you going to shorten that decision process? Yes, the agencies have a bureaucracy, but a very short one, so they can take very precise and timely, more timely decisions. Secondly, we have the era of diversion of funds. The PS is there, there's shortage in the other side, it goes and signs this money, it goes and they say there's no money. So how can we get convinced that merging is going to make this process better? Thank you.
Thank you. Our caller there from Lugala. Okay.
Thank you.
I don't want to interrupt you now. So
thank you very much for the questions. Now, the first one was about capacity, which I think I've already responded to. Then the issue of access to electricity. And I think Goba just talked about it, that in this country, our access to electricity is just at 30%. And government, in its wisdom, is saying if for 20 years we've had 30%. Could it be the management? Could it be operational? Could it be supervision? Maybe it can even improve more if these agencies are taken back and coordinated and work together so that generation is not doing, like for example, we have instances where electricity is already generated, but the transmission people have not been able to transmit it now to the last user. That is why, actually, it's rightly so that in my district, we rarely have electricity for even 2 days in the whole week. And so if rationalization can help address that and improve access.
So you think it will?
Yes, in my view, it should be able to address that. Because if we cannot access electricity, if a Molatar cannot have electricity for 2 days in a week, and yet we generate more electricity than we're even consuming it, where is the problem? Is it supervision? Is it coordination? Is it governance? So for me, those are some of the questions that we should actually be asking. Yes, it is a known fact that we need to rationalize the whole government. That, I'm in agreement, and Parliament is strongly making recommendations that let us not only stop at rationalizing the agencies, but let us do that across government. I think somebody has brought the issue of decision-making process. Even in agencies, there are decision-making processes. The question of bureaucracy, those are management issues, those are operational issues, and Ministry of Public Service has presented on the floor of Parliament the new staff structure in these ministries. It is not true that these people, the agencies, are just going to be taken to the ministries and just bumped in there. There is a new structure on how all these processes will be addressed. So I think the country shouldn't be anxious about what will happen. This process started way back in 2018. A lot of studies have been done, structures have been developed, and we are confident that this should be able to address the issues of efficiency and improve access to services to our people.
Okay, in the interest of time now, I will be asking you to give us your concluding submissions. Let me begin with you, Dr. Yesega.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I think my parting shot is making an appeal that this decision to
save your livelihood?
Decision to mainstream UNMA is taking us backwards. And I gave a key and a very simple reason, being one of the countries in East Africa that has been leading in the provision of weather and climate services. Other countries have been benchmarking on Uganda. And so we are taking a retrogressive move. And so we think that it's important that we revisit this particular decision. And we understand that it's now at the mercy of the President. We want to request His Excellency the President to give us a platform, and we explain what UNMA does and the value of weather and climate services to the socio-economic transformation of this country. That's my parting. And I know the President is watching.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that government means well for this country. Rationalization is meant to improve service delivery to our people. It is meant to reduce the expenditure of our administration. It is meant to generate revenue so that we can serve the people more. And it is meant to build efficiency and coordination and avoid duplication of work so that we can serve our people better.
Thank you. Goodbye, parting shot.
I just think of the challenges that we face as a people. The most critical institution that one would be basically paying attention to on how it should work is the local government structure, just the district local government and below, and how are they organized to deliver services to our people. That is not something that is being done. We are focused on central government agencies. Number two, we are from my my appreciation of the current situation is that you are having a country where we are all economically stressed, almost across the board. That's why you have these traders at long last also throwing in the towel, and they are closing businesses, protesting taxes. That is an economy question. This issue does not solve it. Number 3, we are dealing with a governance question where there is absolute uncertainty in the political process, in the political transition process. We have elections coming up. Ordinarily, at this point, Parliament would be discussing issues to do with elections. And they are basically, I think, in my view, they are diverted discussing the symptoms of the problem rather than dealing with the problem itself. So until I see Parliament really stepping up, stepping up to deal with the issues of the economy, the issues of governance, the issues of political transition, all these other things they are discussing, they are really peripheral and they are just footnotes.
I want to thank you so much, Mr. Godbert Mushabe. I want to thank you, Honorable Agnes Atim and Dr. Ayesiga. Thank you so much for your submissions, for your contribution, for your time. We get it as government. You want to cut costs, you want to create efficiency, and you want to improve on service delivery. But there are some institutions that are strategic in nature. And maybe there could be the others that you think they can go back to their mother ministries. But whoever is making that decision, you rather do it cautiously because we could regret. Good night and God bless Uganda.